All right, what's going on, everyone? There's not a lot happening in the news overall, and I wanted to take the opportunity today to just hop on here and kind of just freeball everything for the most part, just really go off of what I'm seeing when it comes to the Trump approval rating, because that was kind of some news today that I found interesting and found worth talking about. Meanwhile, we have other things happening like the Iran tensions, which I can only talk about for so much, and the Epstein files, which is almost at this point half just slop on the internet at this point. A lot of AI fakery happening now with the Epstein files, people making up all kinds of weird photos using AI, and it's all being proven to be as such with that. So I'm waiting for the dust to settle still when it comes to the Epstein files, but I am paying attention to it. But with this Trump approval rating, it's down. It's getting worse. It's literally collapsing in real time. Excuse me. And the fact of the matter is, there's a generational gap that we're watching unfold right now that's creating everything. A huge divide amongst the under 40 voters, I call them, and the over 40 voters. And that's really why I think right now what we're watching with this Trump administration is, appears to be this like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing with them, because no matter what he does, he's going to make somebody mad. But I think he's choosing to be on the wrong side consistently, especially when it comes to economic choices here right within America. So in the framing of this episode here, where I'm going to just kind of rant about the cost of living, the economy, the Trump approval rating, where our money's going, everything that's been unfolding. I'll still tie it in with Epstein to some degree because it belongs in there. And then, of course, the deep state and the arrests and the justice system that we're watching here. I want that to be the overall frame, though, while I'm covering all of those topics. Generational divide, massive generation gap. And it's truly going to be historic. It's all going to unfold very historically. So Trump's approval rating currently sitting, I believe, at 41 points is what I saw according to the poll. He's just down. He's down like -7 the other day, -14 overall in the last couple of days. I was briefly looking at Rasmussen reports and what he was reporting on. And it's just like what we're seeing right now with the Iran tensions, the way he's handling Epstein, like I said, the cost of living, the economy, his rather tone-deaf approach to the under 40 voters. His approval rating very likely will dip into the 30s very soon, it seems. And the problem is he's focusing on all of the wrong economic metrics. That's the bottom line here. I can hear him talk about GDP. He's talking about the GDP growth, which is great. That's great for the health of our country. Wonderful. GDP growth coming in, I think, at 4.3 overall last year, was it? And they're now very ambitiously and optimistically saying that number by the end of this year could be at 6. GDP growth of 6 at the end of 2026. Like, it all sounds nice. But the bottom line is, when it comes to what Trump focuses on, when he says we're in a golden age, where the economy's looking wonderful, he's focusing on stuff that the under 40 crowd, the under 40 voters can't really relate with. At the end of the day, the GDP being well and all and doing much better than a lot of other countries at 4.3 last year and maybe ending at 6 at the end of this year doesn't personally affect me. It doesn't have anything to do with my cost of living. For instance, I just got out of a grocery store a couple of minutes ago and I made a purchase with food to feed myself for very likely what will last only 2 days. And I'm talking by 2 days, I'm talking maybe 3 meals, maybe, because I have some food at home. And I just spent close to $30 doing that. That is crazy. That's crazy. And granted, I buy a couple of health food products, but even then, I like Quest brand chips because they're protein chips. $2.79. That's not really what's killing me. What's killing me is the overall cost of groceries and food right now. How the fuck am I the only one here? This guy had his shit together. How the fuck am I the only one here? This guy has his shit together. No worries, Lou Becker. Hey, I recognize your name too. Thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate seeing some familiar names coming back time and time again. I've noticed a delay when it comes to when I go live as opposed to when everyone kind of comes in, so don't worry about the numbers. Just be sure to like the stream and subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. That's what helps the channel perform well. Hello, Amsbrin JG Blocks 107 W Stream. Thank you, appreciate you. I don't know if you're a new viewer or whatnot, but Yeah, don't confuse me right off the bat as a liberal. By the way, I'm not. I'm a super conservative. So don't be saying W stream if you're here thinking that I'm a anti-Trumper. I'm not an anti-Trumper, but I am very dissatisfied with Trump overall, especially lately. And I'm here to discuss his crashing approval ratings, and how rightfully so. Rightfully so, his approval is tanking, and it all comes down, in my opinion, to several key factors. The one I really want to focus on today, though, because I haven't talked about the economy on this channel in quite a while, is the economy. So, as I was saying, the GDP growth, it doesn't matter to the everyday American. But that's what they're going off of. They're running off of things like that. Oh, the GDP growth was wonderful. Great. Doesn't help me. I literally do not care. I only care from the standpoint of I know that that's good for America as a whole. But as an individual, which is what it's really coming down to right now, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't help me. So I do not care to hear it all that much. Same with the stock market for that matter. And right now, even the stock market seems to be in a little bit of trouble. The Iran tensions are not helping it. But overall, the stock market has performed incredibly well under Trump. The bottom line, though, is, again, under 40, we're not focused on the stock market as a whole. You'll talk to a lot of young, ambitious men who love the idea of trading in the stock market, and they throw their extra money into the stock market. But at the end of the day, Americans under 40 are not generally working with enough money to see massive gains out of the stock market. So it does not benefit us. And so for Trump to say we're in a golden age because the stock market's doing well and our GDP growth is doing excellent compared to other worldwide countries, it's completely tone deaf. And that's what brings me back where I'm saying focus on, when I'm discussing all this, focus on the generational divide that is currently unfolding in this nation, the massive generation gap. Because truthfully, what a lot of this comes down to, and a lot of the issues we're facing right now with our elected officials, even the conservative ones. I'm not a MAGA cheerleader channel, so if you can't stand somebody who's a conservative who even voted for Trump on his most recent term here, like I did, but is ranting about that and complaining and criticizing it, you got to go somewhere else. That's the bottom line. I'm going to warn you now. Because at the end of the day, the biggest problem is there are too many boomers in our politics. There are too many old people who are totally out of touch. The same kind of boomers that sold us up the river and have been doing so for decades now, ruining any chance that millennials and Gen Zers have had to really do well in life. I can't tell you how many times I've been ranted at by boomers, especially when I was younger, about being lazy, entitled, selfish, and not working hard enough. And the bottom line is I can look back on that and say, I was slightly lazy. I would have preferred to have been staying home back then and playing video games, yes. But working any less harder than they did? Bull fucking shit. I have the ultimate boomer story, actually. I used to literally ride my bike, I'm not kidding, 5.5 miles to my job where I was an assistant manager, and then I would work 8 to 9 hours total, and then I would ride my bike 5.5 miles back home, and I was doing that all for literally 50 cents more an hour than minimum wage. And eventually over time, I wound up getting a couple of pay increases. But the bottom line is, and then on top of it, I was also doing side gig stuff. And now, you fast forward to nowadays, I work 2.5 fucking jobs. I'm spending almost $30 to feed myself 3 meals that will last me for the combined total of 3 days, only because I have a couple of extra items of food at home currently that I didn't have to buy. So this economy right now, for the everyday American and for the boomers running this country, they have no clue how out of touch, they're so out of touch, they don't understand it. But that's why Trump's approval rating, that's one of the reasons why it's doing so poorly. And it's one of the reasons why he's losing more when it comes to his approval rating. He's losing more of his base. Things are not better. I'm noticing prices going up, and I'm going to cover why too, because people are going to point to quite a few different reasons why our cost of living is not getting better and why prices are going up. And some of those reasons are half-truths or not the complete story, so I am going to get into that because that is important. And then, honestly, I hate people that complain and criticize all the time without providing solutions. So at the very least, I will later on discuss some possible hypothetical scenarios and point to some major issues when it comes to America and how our government is run, where our money goes, because that's important too. And it's important to focus on what actually matters. Important to focus on solutions, or at least possible ones. Hey, Scruffy901, welcome back. I did Google the Havara Agreement. I saw it had something to do with, what was it, Israel and something else. I gotta confess, I didn't have time to read it yet. I do have it pulled up as a Google Chrome tab though on my phone, so I will look at it. I just saw it today actually when I went to check the weather. So I will take a look at it. I haven't been able to read it just yet. Hey, Keystone Liberty's here too. The crew's all here. Some of the regulars. Keystone Liberty. Dan Bongino's wife said she would feel safer immigrating back to Colombia. Yeah, I wonder why. Maybe because Dan Bongino was too much like us at first and tried to argue too much with the establishment, which he ultimately capitulated to, completely folded to. Now you just got to fart to get 50 cents. I don't know what that's referencing, but what are you, stupid? What's the price of gas? Do you eat? Tips? Work overtime? What are you? What's your problem? Are you a boomer? What are you fucking coming at me for when I'm literally just talking about facts? The cost of what are you talking about? The price of gas? Jack Burke 2221. Do you understand something when it comes to gas? Do you understand that the average American spends less than 2% of their annual earnings on gas? It's nice that, and by the way, gas in my area, it did go down drastically at first, but it's been hovering for not quite a year, but it's been hovering for months. So don't come at me with that bullshit. I don't know if you're some cranky boomer, out of touch bitch ass conservative in here, but as much as I'm a conservative, that's what I started with. I'm telling you right now, this is not the stream or the channel for you if you can't handle people criticizing the Trump administration and your infallible cult leader. I voted for Trump, but I'm still going to come on here and voice my displeasure as an American, as is my right, and truthfully, as is my fucking responsibility as an American to do so. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like everything's going well. It's not. And truthfully, you're going to fucking learn when the midterms happen, when they come this year later. You're going to see the end result of that. And then you're going to wonder why, after listening to all of your stupid bullshit MAGA cheerleader channels telling you that there was going to be a massive red wave in midterms, which even I thought was the case 7, 8 months ago, but now it's plain as day not going to happen. So don't come in here in my comments and tell me I'm stupid for complaining about cost of living. I'm fucking young still, and I'm telling you right now, I'm just getting started in life. I'm not established. I'm not a fucking boomer who bought a house for 17 grand, now sitting on $581,000 of property value worth. I'm not a boomer who has a 401k wrapped up in the stock market, okay? So I don't want to hear anything about, what are you, stupid? What's the price of gas? Do you eat? Tips? Do you work overtime? I work 2.5 fucking jobs, motherfucker. Don't come at me about working overtime. I own my own business I'm trying to get off the ground. I own technically 2 businesses. I am so fucking busy that I go live in my car because I'm working all the time. So fuck off if you're coming at me with that bullshit. Fuck right off. I gave up on this country after Hillary got away with the dossier, Lou Becker. Yeah, and wasn't it amazing, not to go off on too long of a rant here, I'm going to get right back on the topic in 10 seconds. But wasn't it amazing how at least at first the Clintons, when they were like literally summoned to Congress basically to testify on this shit, they said no. No, we're not doing that. Now, of course, they will. They kind of had to eventually. They were thankfully going to be charged with contempt of Congress otherwise, but it just goes to tell you who's really in control in this country, who really runs things, what's actually happening, which party actually knows how to wield power and play the game, and it's not conservatives. Okay. Anyways, where I wanted to go with this, the cost of living. Some of the factors that are coming into play here when it comes to the cost of living. First and foremost, I wanted to address tariffs. And people are going to blame tariffs for the cost of living when truthfully, they barely play a part at all. They're only responsible for an increase in costs on a few goods. A lot of the stuff I see rising up in price in the grocery store, seemingly every few months the prices are going up, has very little to do with tariffs. You can pin the tariffs on beef and coffee. But overall, the long-term strategy for the Trump tariffs is actually genius, and it's actually something I'm in favor of. And that was something from the beginning I said would affect the cost of living short-term on certain products like beef and coffee. And we are seeing that. That I'm willing to sacrifice. That's okay. From a geopolitical and geostrategical standpoint, the tariffs are actually, they're crucial right now, and very few people actually understand how important the Trump tariffs are. And that's one of the few things the Trump administration has done, mainly because he implemented them early on when I actually liked everything he was doing still. That's one of the few things he's done that I support. And so we can pin the tariffs on beef and coffee. I'm okay with that. The real problem here is multifold. And one of the actual issues, admittedly, is immigration. It is mass deportations. And as somebody who advocates on this channel for mass deportations and massive immigration reform, there's no way I'd sit here and ever bitch about the economy being bad and the cost of living being bad while hypocritically not pointing out the fact that mass deportations would be a massive temporary setback to those things. And so farmers are struggling right now. Yes, we went and deported some of their workers. Trump has told them to ease off of that. I've been critical of Trump for doing that. But the bottom line is, the bottom line is there's multiple problems in this country. The entire system is broken. So to the farmers, should they have ever fucking replaced Americans with illegal immigrant workers just so they could underpay them and then sell their produce and their goods for cheaper? The answer is hell fucking no. And so who's really to blame here? Not the average everyday American who is now suffering no matter what any administration does. Who's to blame here, truthfully, is it's the entire system, the justice system, the political system, the grimy corporations and farmers who take advantage of stuff like this. And so that's really where my head's at with that. And I have solutions that I've brainstormed, or at least they're hypothetical ones. I'm not some genius over here, but there's just some obvious answers to what's going on here. When you follow the currency and you follow all of the money in this country, where it's going, what we're doing with it, what Congress and the president, the executive, all of our politicians are doing with our money is criminal in itself. And that's what I'm going to cover a little bit later on this stream, because the fact of the matter is there's so many ways that our government right now could be tackling these issues, and they're just not. And right now, what I really feel, and like I said, there's no real script here on this episode. I'm tired. I'm cranky right now. I've been working hard all week, and truthfully, the news cycle is slow. So I'm really just ranting about this Trump approval rating dipping and conservatives wondering why, and Trump going and having disastrous NBC interviews, which I'll get to in a minute as well. I'm really just ranting off the top of my head about, gee, why could the Trump approval rating be tanking right now? I wonder why. And so to bring it all back, the farmers doing this with the immigrants and mass deportations, it's like there's so many things that Americans want right now, and we're just not going to get it. And that's because our current elected representatives as a whole, they just don't represent us anymore. And I'd love to see in the chat if you can literally point to me any example where an elected politician, especially a mainstream one, which is what I'm mostly focusing on, has done something recently that made you feel represented, made you feel like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I literally want this. Because Trump started off his term last year doing pretty much everything I wanted. The first 3 months of the Trump administration last year were like heaven to me. Everything he was doing, I was like, this is fucking phenomenal. And then, slowly but surely, just like in his first term, in comes the warmongers and the neocons and the foreign agenda push and the distractions and oh, Mr. Trump, what about Ukraine? Oh, Mr. Trump, what about Iran and Israel? Oh, Mr. Trump, we got to focus on NATO too here and this and that. And oh, Mr. Trump, this. And Senator Lindsey Graham lives in Ukraine half the year, and then the other half of the year he lives in Israel. And it's like, what's he a senator of? What is it, North Carolina, South Carolina? I don't hear Senator Lindsey Graham ever talk about his own constituents or the people of the state that he represents. I only ever hear him talk about taxes going down and all the right people being killed. That's a literal quote from Senator Lindsey Graham, a warmonger. These are the kind of people that surround themselves around Trump, and they're constantly in his ear. And not to exonerate Trump at all, he listens to them. And so we had like 3 months of fire out of this administration where everything he was doing was phenomenal, and then it was just slowly but surely all downhill from there. That's why his approval rating is tanking. According to Rasmussen reports, all of Trump's actual campaign promises currently, this was something that Mark Mitchell literally tweeted out about, I think, last week. Currently, all of the promises that Trump made on the campaign trail are more popular than he is. That's sad. And that's sad for a reason. It's because if only Trump had the balls still and the focus to run on what he actually said he would do and run it to completion, he would be infinitely more popular. He started off so popular with the youth and then lost that very quickly. Elon Musk was ousted. Doge is no more. And then he started telling us all this nonsense about the Epstein files. It's just like everything has been a massive disaster ever since about May, truthfully. That's really what's going on here. So I'll take a look at some chats again right now. This guy follows Rasmussen. The guy has his shit together. Thank you, Lou Becker. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, man, Mark Mitchell's awesome. I've DM'd him and I've DM'd him personally. I've talked with him. He's a great guy, truthfully, and he's a very good pollster. He's one of the few pollsters that routinely gets like his predictions correct when he's demonstrating poll results. He accurately predicts elections better than most of these other bullshit liberal-led polls. Great guy, really good guy. One of the few good Gen Xers out there. Mark Mitchell. I mean, yeah, it's called being a populist campaigner, says Laneling. Yeah, well, exactly. But you know why? You know why populism wins elections? It's because it's what people want. And believe it or not, when you're a politician, your job is literally to run off of what people want. I just unsubbed to your channel. Unsubbed, says Mystical9054. Okay, very good. Go brag about that to both your moms. I'm sure they're very proud of you. Get the fuck off my, like, that's called cleansing the filth. Thank you. Okay, here's a spammer. Dude, you're manic. Go to bed. Nobody gives a shit. Okay. Then why are you here, you fucking bitch? We're going to hide this user on the channel. Sergeant Joe, you have been deported from American Advocates. You've been deported. ICE has come for you. Your face has been introduced to concrete. Your hands are behind your back. You are now restrained, and you have been deported off of this channel. Not because of what you said. I'm a free speech absolutist. You can say it once, but if you want to say it 18 times in my chat like a retard, well, guess what? You're deported, bitch. Get the fuck off my channel. And that goes for anybody else. I don't have any mods on this channel, but when I see people spamming, instant ban. Go somewhere else. All illegal immigrants need to go, says the guy who unsubs to me. Then employers will raise the wages to a living, competitive wage. That's the answer. Yeah, I mean, you say that, and then you say I just unsubbed to your channel. I borderline agree with you. So I don't know what your problem is, in all honesty. Unless you meant you subbed, I don't know. Mark Mitchell has been banned from Fox. No way, Keystone. He was just on Fox. There's no way he's been banned. He was just on Fox spitting fire. Fox News is such a joke. I tune in the Fox News and they're showing pictures of cats. They're literally showing pictures of cats. It's like, here's another problem. Let's go off on another rant right now. The difference in this administration and this term compared to Trump's last term in administration. Trump was on, I know this is a minor one and people laugh at this. Trump was not easily accessible to the average everyday American, but Trump was on X in his first term, spouting off all the time. And I feel like he'd go on X a lot and get to see public opinion to some degree a little bit better. This time around, it's like he's almost been shielded. There's almost like some interesting similarities in this Trump term compared to Biden's last term, where it's very obvious Biden was being shielded and protected from public opinion, sent to a beach vacation for 14 fucking days, the auto pen going wild. It's not that bad with Trump. Trump's way too stubborn, strong-willed to put up with that. But in a way, it's like he's been isolated. And we've seen that play out all last year. You know, Trump was slowly isolated from all of the people that were really his supporters, like Steve Bannon. You know, he doesn't, it seems like he doesn't talk with the Alex Joneses, the Steve Bannons. General Mike Flynn will go off on amazing rants on Twitter, and it's like, does Trump even see those? Probably not. Does Trump ever call that guy? Probably not. Some of these people are people that got arrested on Trump's behalf just about 6 years ago. And where are they in this administration? Nowhere. And that's a big problem. And Trump's over on Truth Social now, which is an app full of just absolute sycophants who are only willing to ever say what he wants to hear, no doubt. You're not going to see much criticism on Truth Social, his platform. So that's another problem. But, and I wanted to get back to this and discuss this from the right lens again with the economy and the approval. Now, what I wanted to mention, of course, we want the mass deportations. And so we understand that the farmers have taken advantage of illegal immigrants, borderline slave labor. Modern-day slave labor is really what it is. And even the liberals, when they talk about it, they speak about it in that framing where it's like, oh, yeah, but who's going to clean your toilets and who's going to pick the crops? It's like, that's what it is. Like, you can't even say it. You can't even say it nicely without it sounding that way, because that's what it is. And so what we really need is a massive reset. We need the system is this close to being burned down. And I don't think people realize that yet. I don't think our establishment politicians understand how thin of a line everything's on right now, while we're witnessing a two-tier justice system, while we're witnessing no deep state arrests, while we're witnessing this Epstein stuff unfold, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well, and while we're witnessing the average day Americans suffer in this economy. The cost of living is terrible right now, in all honesty, and the prices have literally gone up. I'm in the grocery store a lot. I like to buy my food on like a 2-day basis. I like fresh ingredients, etc. I pay attention to the prices. The prices have gone up, at least where I'm at. And they don't understand that's the perfect recipe for disaster. I mean, that's like revolution style disaster. We're on a thin line, and it can be fixed. And I don't want to see our country plummet into madness or a revolution to break out. But if things keep going this way, I cannot help but wonder what the future of America looks like, as young people will continually get more pissed and feel the most underrepresented because they are. And that goes back to, again, what I said at the beginning of this episode. Let's focus on that generational divide and the gap, because the under 40 voting crowd overall is holding radically different viewpoints, perspectives, and beliefs than the over 40 crowd. I highlighted that the other stream when it comes to the Iran tensions, for instance. A 40-point divide between the under 40s and over 40s. Under 40s want nothing to do with the Middle East. Over 40s want to go gung-ho, take the fight to them. So that's just one example, by the way. And that really truly leads me into my next point here, which is not even to just focus on one region, but focus on where our taxpayer dollars are going. And, you can blame mass deportations for an increased cost of living right now and increased price consumer goods wise. You can actually blame tariffs for that in part when it comes to things like ground beef and coffee, though tariffs do not play that big of a role overall. But other things, we got the dairy, we got the produce, we got all kinds of stuff going up. Mass deportations are playing a part in that. Also, bad weather, actually, straight up. This cold front has been terrible for the entire country. So there's so many factors that you could talk about all of those at length for probably 3 hours, which I'm not going to do, on why the economy for the everyday American is still not great. But the real thing that I want to focus on is, what's the solution, and what could the Trump administration be doing? And truthfully, like I said, I'm not some super smart economist out here. I'm not even trying to masquerade as something of the sort. But as somebody who pays attention to politics a lot, pays attention to the economy a lot, I have a few ideas. And it's like, what I truthfully want to see, and what I think most Americans want to see, is first and foremost results. First and foremost, easier time surviving. Like I said earlier, I just spent almost $30 on groceries that will last me for 2 days. That is unbelievable. I live alone right now. I only have my own mouth to feed, and it is so expensive out here. But truthfully, people want to see not just results. I would like to just see them attempting, first of all, acknowledging the problem. Just not too long ago, President Trump was doing an interview where he openly and in a tone-deaf manner outright stated that he doesn't want the housing prices to go down, which essentially is him, by the way, picking a side. Goes back to the generation gap I said let's focus on for this episode, this stream that I'm doing here. And that generation gap's real. And Trump has picked a side, essentially, by saying that. He's on the same side as the boomers. And I am so sick and tired of boomers at this point, especially in our politics. Boomers are the one that sold this country up the river for the most part. All of our jobs are overseas. Everything they did, they drag raced on our economy for their own selfish gain, sacrificing millennials in the process. And now Gen Z's coming up, and they're seeing the most dreadful of circumstances. Gen Zers are doomers and black pillars, as are a lot of millennials now, because our life is getting started and we look everywhere and we see nothing but shit. Meanwhile, boomers are buying vacation homes. The average median age of a home buyer 20 years ago was age 39, which is already unacceptable, by the way. But you fast forward 20 years to the current day, and the average age median home buyer is 59. And so the same people buying homes 20 years ago are the same ones buying homes today. That's depressing. But there's Trump in an interview literally discussing how he wants housing prices to not go down, how he wants people for the first time in their life to feel rich. The same people, boomers by the way, who live off of entitlements, who tell young people that they need to work harder, that they need to save their money and not buy Spotify Premium, Starbucks coffee, Netflix memberships, as if those were ever the fucking problem, right? Young people can't get homes. Boomers are buying their second or third homes in some cases. Their stock market is paying off, their 401k that's invested in it. All of this. Trump has picked that side. And that is a big problem for the Republican Party as a whole. A lot of young people gave conservatives a chance. And that's why Trump's in office right now. And Trump was so popular with them in the first 2 months of his administration last year. Now he's lost them pretty much entirely. And it all is coming back to the fact that our current representatives they don't represent us. And so what do we do about this? Well, that ties me into what I want to discuss here, foreign aid. I just did a lot of research over the past hour in my car here, researching foreign aid. And the numbers are absurd. And I've ranted all the time now on this channel about Ukraine, NATO, etc., and where our money is going. This is our money, by the way. When Trump or Biden, for that matter, or any president tells you and informs you by himself or through his administration spokespeople that we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, billions of dollars to NATO, to Israel, to the UK, that we're subsidizing Canada, just understand something. That's your money. The government and our country, the United States, doesn't generate money. They take money. They take our money and they decide what to do with it. And so we've been funding the world pretty much. I mean, NATO only exists because of us. Canada only really is doing anywhere near respectable part of the G7 and the lowest performing member of the G7 for that matter. They're only doing well because of us. You know, we have Ukraine that we're trying to keep alive here for some reason. That's because of us. We send money to all these countries. Why don't we start pulling back that money and use it for Americans? How about we start pulling back that money and investing it into our infrastructure, our supply chains? How about we just outright pull some of that money back and use it to ease the burden that's coming on us now from mass deportations? We could just direct those funds anywhere. But we have an out-of-touch Congress that controls the purse. And truthfully, we have an out-of-touch president that wants housing prices to go up instead of down and thinks we're in a golden age right now. And we're only in a golden age if you're 70. If you're 30, if you're 20, if you're 18, we're not in a golden age. All right, Gregory, your time has come too. Too much. Goodbye. Too much spam. How about we get all that fraud money back on the system? I agree. BJ Fit Guru. Listen, that's another thing. There's just so much poor management happening right now when it comes to our money, the United States government, etc. How about we do stuff like this? This is something I've proposed, for instance. Maybe you'll like this one, Fit Guru. How about with people like Ilhan Omar? How about we investigate the fuck out of her? With all of that Minnesota Somali fraud, how about we investigate the ever-loving shit out of her? People like Tim Walz, Mayor Jacob Frey. How about we just investigate them? And when we, if and when we link them to participating in the fraud that we now know was happening there, courtesy of independent journalists, by the way, like Nick Shirley. But when we tie that to them, how about we just seize their assets? How about we just take all that wealth that they don't fucking deserve and we pour it right back into our economy for Americans? How about then at that point we revoke their citizenships and send them out of this country with nothing but the clothing on their back? Especially someone like Ilhan Omar, who shouldn't be holding any sort of position like she currently does, because foreigners shouldn't be running our government. How about we start doing stuff like that? That would be a great start. How about we get Elon Musk back in there, get Doge fired back up, and we all know the reason why he's not. We all know why. It's because they were finding out too much. And Republicans are implicated in fraud and corruption, and we can't have that right now. It's kind of the same reason why this administration didn't want the Epstein files released. So, how about we start doing stuff like that? That's a big one, right? Stop everything. Super chat has come in. Thank you. Zcor Palfa 2462. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name too much, but thank you for the $9.99. I appreciate that. Just leave the USA. Simple. Mexico is a great choice. Hey, you might take this the wrong way, but I wish back in the day the United States would have just purchased Mexico, because you guys have the best weather down there. It's consistently good weather, and it is a great area. I have a good friend on a cruise down there right now, and the pictures are wonderful. So, as far as leaving the USA though, never. This is my country. I was born here, and I care about this country, and I want to live to see this country restored to its glory, and I believe that's possible. But we have to put in so much work right now, and there are no current good elected representatives that are doing anything to fix it, it seems. And so that's where I'm at with that. But I appreciate the super chat so much. Thank you so much for that. Let's see, right underneath it. Ryan H., your tax dollars went to the rich and you live in your car. I do not live in my car. I literally work. The reason why I'm in my car so much is because I literally work 2.5 jobs. I am always working. You can go on my channel. You can see I record main videos out of where I live sometimes, but I just haven't had time for that lately. Plus the live streams do better. They do the best right now for my channel. So there's this thing called inflation, dude. Ever heard of it? Yeah, I've heard of inflation. Yeah. Yeah, and inflation apparently has stabilized, yet somehow prices are going up in the store right now. Consumer goods are going up. And it's not you can't just deflate inflation. That's how you literally enter a recession. So I understand that too. But, prices are going up right now. We're now on year 2, technically. Trump's been in office for a year, but this is now Trump year 2, really, that we're in, and prices have gone up. And you can blame Biden and Biden inflation all you want, which is very real. And it's startling to me that people just either I've overlooked that or never want to discuss it because it's embarrassing. But either way, yeah, we'll never forget that. 9.1% inflation under Biden, also at the end of his second year. Now we're in the beginning of Trump's second year. Cost of living has not improved for the everyday American. Prices have gone up just over the last 3 weeks. Some prices have gone up by as much as 1.4% year over year, and others are up by 0.9% and 0.3%. It's going up, man. So, I'm going to be on here, and that leads me right back to the solution here, because like I said, I've already stated, we understand mass deportations were going to hurt. We understand tariffs were going to hurt. We need our money, our taxpayer dollars, to go back towards benefiting us, and they're not. That's the bottom line here. And that's really why I went live today, was to discuss Trump's tanking approval rating, to discuss the cost of living, and to discuss what our elected officials could or should be doing about it if they actually fucking represented us. But they don't represent us, do they? They don't represent us. None of them do. Maybe a Thomas Massey represents us, and he gets shit on by this administration all of the time. The guy with one of the highest America First patriotic scores out there votes super conservative, but because he votes no on a lot of stuff, he gets absolutely shit on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, not that I like women in politics typically, driven out of her position by this administration. You have to actually be paying attention to it like I am to understand what's happening here. But what's really happening here is Trump's been distracted. He's focused on neoconservatism and foreign policy over domestic issues and populism. Trump's a boomer. He's out of touch. He doesn't understand what young people want. He's isolated from everybody because he's on Truth Social. He has Susie Wiles managing all of his staff, managing who can approach him and who can get close to him and in his ear. Susie needs to go. He's surrounded by people who are either incompetent, have hidden secret agendas that are destroying his administration, or just don't know what they're talking about. Very few good ones, once again, and he's not hearing a word of it, nor does he actually even want to believe it. He was just doing an NBC interview where he said, well, the polls are showing the economy's doing good. He was promptly corrected, and rightfully so, by the interviewer, I can't remember his name, who said, no, actually, all the polls are showing the economy's doing bad. His response, well, the polls should be saying the economy's doing good. I don't see why they're saying it's doing bad. I don't understand that. Like, what the fuck? I just, I don't know what to think about this guy anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at with this. Here's another great boomer comment from RC. Screw younger people. They all don't want to work anyway. No, motherfucker. Here's the deal with younger people. We were sold a lie from fucking scum boomers who sold us up the river, who allowed all of our jobs to be sent overseas, and then who promoted individualism, the destruction of morals in our society. All of that bullshit started with boomers. On top of that, boomers are the ones, I talk to boomers, they're the ones that like the idea of immigration and open borders. You know, the people coming into this country to take what few jobs we have left open for young people. I can't tell you how many idiotic boomers on both sides of the aisle, right? Like liberal boomers are the dumbest people you'll ever talk to. If you're 70 and you're a liberal, you're literally a 50 IQ fucking idiot. But if you're a conservative boomer, you're still not guaranteed to be smart. I hear so many conservative boomers, they tout off the lie. Well, we're a melting pot and immigrants built this country. Wrong and wrong. And on top of that, you have the Trump H-1B visa program allowing these overqualified, much smarter than you Indian workers who eat cow pie shit for a cuisine, an actual dish that they enjoy. They bury their face in it and eat it, and they think it's delicious. They throw trash in the river as a form of worship to a false god, and their towns and cities and their country looks like shit. But somehow they're smarter than you. And boomers think that that's wonderful. Oh, that's what America's all about. Letting people in from these third world countries so that they can have a chance at a nicer life. Fuck you. That's not what America's all about. America's for Americans, and immigrants who come into this country are supposed to be adding real value. But instead, we've already lived through the last 50 years as Americans collectively, not me because I'm much too young, but all of our manufacturing sold overseas, jobs taken away. Now immigrants come in and take what jobs are left, and a lot of those jobs that immigrants are taking are jobs building AI to replace us even more. And you want to sit there in my chat and talk about how young people don't want to work? How about young people don't want to work a bullshit-ass job that doesn't pay them good enough? None of these employers care. The cost of living is outrageous. There's no point in working a job, in all honesty, when rent keeps going up. We'll never be able to own a home. We can't make proper investments. We're not going to be able to buy a home for cheap. Trump wants the housing prices to go up, not down. And then on top of it, living wages, which I'm not, by the way, I'm not a socialist. So don't get me wrong there. But when the wages aren't meeting the economy, they're not meeting the cost of living, that's a problem. And then you look around and you realize you're being replaced if you're an American. You're being replaced. Boomers are buying their second home. We're all left, the rest of us young people are literally left paying for rent that keeps going up every 3 months. And then we're being lectured to by those boomers who literally destroyed America from the inside, and they live off of it. Boomers had it so easy, but they live off of entitlements. You want to sit there and lecture me or any young person about what to do and how we're not working hard enough? You can fuck right off with that shit. None of the jobs pay good enough, bro, says RC. What are you talking about now? Yes, blame the immigrants and not the billionaires. Negative IQ. Listen, whatever job you hold on a second. Who said that? Let me see who said that. Yeah, here we go. Dav 12345. Yeah, listen. Whatever job you're currently working, if you work a job at all and you're not some fat 300-pound fucker living off of food stamps and welfare, if you actually work a job, who owns that job? Who owns that corporation you work for? Billionaires and crony capitalism are a problem. I've mentioned that on this channel before. I am all for free market, and I'm all for the free market and capitalism, but I'm not for crony capitalism, and I freely recognize we exist inside of a system that is corrupt and has crony capitalism prevailing right now. But billionaires inherently existing are not an actual problem. They create the jobs that we need. They're not the actual problem. That's rich envy is what that is. You're just envious of people doing better than you, making more money, etc. So, I don't want to hear anything of the sort about that. We can eat the rich all we want. Really, all that's going to happen if you do that is you're going to get the money back over time. If you took everybody's wealth, the rich people would wind up rich again. That's a saying for a reason. So no, I'm not going to focus on billionaires as a whole. They're not the actual issue, and you're the one with the low IQ if you think that. You're probably for open borders. You probably welcome it. Well, we really stole this land and we deserve to be replaced. Go fuck yourself, you traitor. 2009 Lifeguard. Hey, welcome back, 2009 Lifeguard. America only, says Keystone Liberty. Absolutely. We've already been through it. Is this a boomer? You're definitely a boomer if you're talking. Listen, bro. This is RC the boomer in my chat. Listen, bro. I walked uphill both ways to school every day as a kid. You'll never have it as hard as I did. Okay? And it was windy, but the wind was against me both ways, and it rained every single day that I did it. And really, it taught me everything I needed to know about life so I could go work my fucking factory job that I worked for 40 years with the best benefits. Now I'm on Social Security doing just fine. I bought my home for 18 grand. It's now worth $612,000. I'm pulling equity out of it to buy a vacation home. My 401k is wrapped up in the stock market. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. You're so stupid. You're so fucking dumb. You're out of touch, and you're the best example of why our politicians are out of touch. Because they think like you. And because they came up in the same world you did, which doesn't exist anymore. And it doesn't exist anymore in large part because of people like you who sold our nation to foreign entities. Bottom line. And now AI's here. And this administration doesn't even know. Boomers think all technology is great, apparently. Trump can't be bothered to discuss AI regulation, which will be sorely needed. And we're not going to get it. Palantir, we're being replaced. We're being ushered into a surveillance state, and we're being ushered into a state where robots, which are created to serve us, AI created to serve us, is replacing us. Make it fucking make sense. But a boomer just goes, oh, in Trump's mind, I guarantee you, his thought process is, well, if AI advances a lot during my administration, that'll look good for me. In short, yes. In the long term, absolutely not. Now, AI is going to usher in universal basic income, and that's a topic for a different day. It really is. And I should just go at length about that one of these days. But AI will be the ultimate reason that capitalism collapses and that the free world fails, because of the surveillance state that'll be brought in with it, and because of the fact that it's going to replace Americans at such a rate, unlike past industrial revolutions where people were able to evolve. If you owned a horse stable when Henry Ford made the Model T, you got fucked over, but most Americans didn't. AI is now at a point, this AI industrial revolution we're living through is going to hurt everybody over time. It's not going to be like past industrial revolutions where some Americans sadly got fucked over, but most were able to move on and adapt. This AI revolution is going to hurt all of us in the long run, and there's nothing being done in the way of regulating it domestically that I see happening. There's no agenda for that from any mainstream politician. Big problem. Big problem. But boomers just don't get it. Boomers will see an AI video of a polar bear skiing down a mountain, and they'll come to you and show you it. And they'll go, you'll never see what they saw this polar bear do in Greenland. No wonder why Trump wants to take Greenland. I didn't know polar bears could ski. They fucking think it's real. They don't understand the implications of AI in the future. They don't understand any of this. They're literally just vacationing and living off Social Security. And if I had it my way, Social Security would be destroyed. It's so stupid. But regardless, that's what I wanted to come on here to say overall. I also wanted to briefly discuss the fact that Trump's so out of touch, his approval rating is tanking, and it's not just the economy. There's so much more that goes into it. I just wanted to discuss the economy at length tonight because I can only talk about Iran. I can only talk about the Epstein files. I can only talk about, Don Lemon or whatever so much before it's like repetitive, But I will circle back quickly to those topics. He said that he's disappointed that Bill Clinton's being targeted after the Epstein files are released. Tone deaf. Absolutely tone deaf. Young people want law and order reestablished in this country, and we're looking at a two-tier justice system that only cracks down on the everyday American while completely exonerating and ignoring, in most cases, anybody higher up. You look at, hang on, excuse me. Not that I ever want to give other countries credit because America's the best and fuck the rest. But you look at a country like Ukraine, the UK, the United Kingdom, and you see the scandals that are unfolding there from the Epstein files being released, and how much more seriously, in all honesty, they're taking it than we are here. Peter Mandelson is going to lose. He's going to be expelled out of the House of Lords. He's going to be kicked out. He's going to have to quit. He's one of the prominent UK politicians out that way because his name was in the Epstein files too much. Now Keir Starmer, the prime minister there, is also being implicated because now it's very obvious that he had knowledge of Mandelson's relationship with Epstein even after Epstein was convicted. He had knowledge of that and allowed Peter Mandelson to have the political career that he has. So now Keir Starmer, the whole prime minister there, is under hot water as well. At least the UK is taking it seriously. Some of these other countries are taking it seriously. Donald Tusk, I kid you not, that's a real politician over in Poland. I believe he's the prime minister or whatever the title for Poland is. He's their guy. He's talking about Epstein and how much of a scandal it is, associating Jeffrey Epstein with KGB Russian ties. Other world leaders are bringing this up. They're doing stuff about it. And over here, we have our Assistant Attorney General Todd Blanche saying, well, there's really not much to look at, basically. In summary, that's what he says. There's no accountability. Where's the investigations for these people that are in the Epstein files thousands and thousands of times? Where's that? Where's the DOJ even saying that they're going to do that? All we've had when it comes to Epstein is Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. First Pam Bondi gives us the files we already had in the form of those embarrassing phase 1 binders. Then she says, oh, they're on my desk, I'm looking through them. Then she says they're not there anymore. Then she says they never existed. And then she testifies to that. And then Kash Patel backs her up. Dan Bongino quits. And there's no investigations. And some of these people are blatantly guilty, Like, I've come on this channel to already discuss what I think about the guilt of certain people popping up in them. But other ones, because when it comes to Trump, you have anonymous tips that are included in there that are not reliable. You don't have anything direct linking Trump to Epstein. You have all these bullshit stories. Like, if you believe the fact that Trump was dealing inappropriately with 12-year-old girls and then eating their intestines and they were beheaded, it's like, come on, you're so fucking stupid. But overall, a lot of these names, even Elon Musk, the fact that he was emailing Epstein asking about when the wildest party would be happening, that should be an investigation. And it's a cruel twist of irony and fate, honestly, that's the case, because Elon was the one who exposed Trump for being in the files back when he was being ousted from Doge and from the administration early last year. But it turns out, no, he was the one actually emailing Jeffrey Epstein asking about wild parties. I'm not saying that makes him guilty of anything, but he should be investigated for that. You don't see this DOJ talking about that at all. And when Trump is asked about the Epstein files, he is constantly either deflecting or getting mad at the reporters who ask him about it because Trump is defending these people. Trump's guilt, I'm not convinced of at all. I've long predicted on this channel Trump would not be implicated from anything found regarding him in the files. That's turning out to be correct. But what Trump is doing is protecting all of the world elites, which is what he was always trying to do from the start. And Trump, and it's made clear when he says that he's disappointed that Bill Clinton, someone he says he likes, and Hillary, who he called a smart woman, he's disappointed that they're being targeted now, and partly, a large part of that is because of the release of the files. What is this narrative? But then people want to sit down and wonder why Trump's approval rating is tanking and why he's down so many points. Maybe it's because this Trump is nothing like the Trump that campaigned 2 years ago now. Maybe that has something to do with it. Bro, Trump's name is in it 5,000 times. Wake up. Yeah, there's people in those files that are literally not guilty at all. Trump's one of them. Like people are so dumb when it comes to the files. They think, oh, like Trump's name is in there because, I don't know, he's a super wealthy, powerful person that Epstein was friends with in the 90s. Epstein wanted dirt on Trump so bad. Epstein's job was literally to blackmail elites. That was his job. That's what the whole thing was. It was an operation. Something I've also been saying on this channel forever. And people said, you're stupid. You have no clue. He was a sicko. Him and Trump were partners on the island, sacrificing children. Like, so stupid. And the more info that comes out, the more legitimate info we see out of the files, the more vindicated I feel on that approach. But But people are listed in those files thousands of times because that was Epstein's fucking job. He kept ties with as many wealthy, powerful people as he could, and he was constantly trying to set them up in incriminating situations for future blackmail purposes. Because Epstein was very clearly Mossad. Also, very likely CIA, possibly KGB, and possibly MI6. And these intelligence communities are no good. I think we can all admit that finally in 2026. I don't think that has to be a conspiracy theory anymore. That's what Epstein was. So yes, Trump, a man who became the president while Epstein was still alive, mind you, who was one of the wealthiest real estate owners in New York City, a prominent businessman, reality TV star, someone who very likely was responsible for Epstein catching the first case he caught in Florida back in 2009. Someone who Trump kicked out of Mar-a-Lago, someone who used to hang around Epstein in the 90s. Epstein got probably this close to being able to try to compromise him. Yeah, his name's mentioned a lot. Yeah, that's definitely the case. By the way, a lot of the references and mentions are from false reports, like from Virginia Giuffre, was it? She was one of the known liars in the files, and if she wasn't one of the ones that listing Trump by name, because there's so much going on, I can't remember. But a lot of them are coming in the form of anonymous tips. Not from Jeffrey Epstein's email, not from any of his associates emailing and talking about Trump, from people giving a tip anonymously saying, well, Trump did this, he ate baby intestines. Like, okay, anybody could do that. Crystal Night Gaming is in the Epstein files. Crystal Night Gaming's in the Epstein files. He sacrificed children and ate shit out of their intestines. See how easy that is? That could be a tip. You could have wound up in the Epstein files. All I would have had to have done was write that in to the FBI and send it, and they would have went, okay, we'll have to look into that. Boom, anonymous tip. Crystal Night Gaming is in the Epstein files. It's really that easy. That's why Trump's name is in there so much. Part of the reason why, at least. The other part of the reason why is Jeffrey Epstein very clearly had Trump derangement syndrome and talked to Trump a lot, disparagingly and very angrily, because he never wound up getting Trump on anything, and I think it pissed him off. That's the conclusion right now. I'm willing to stand corrected on that, by the way, in the future. If something crazy comes out where it's like, oh my God, that's it. Photos of Trump in the act, like we kind of virtually saw with Prince Andrew. Then I'll say, hey, I was wrong. I have no ego wrapped up in this. I'm critical of Trump right now. I don't give a fuck what he's been involved with. I'm not here to defend him. I'm just here to tell you the reality of the situation. And I've looked at a lot of emails on Jeffrey Epstein last weekend. I took a whole half day off on Saturday. I work every fucking day of the week. I took a half day off on Saturday to read so much shit on Epstein. I spent 6 hours looking at those files. I've done searches. I've done everything. There's nothing that would stick on Trump as of right now. Nothing. Trump USA, says Boschi, and yet you defend him. Well, I will defend. Yeah, of course. I'm critical of him, but I'm going to defend him. Like when it comes to Epstein, long have I said I don't think he's implicated in him. My ego's not wrapped up in that prediction. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I just know what I've seen. I've done the research. You guys watch Brian Krasenstein and Dave Pacman, who says, and even CoffeeZilla, he's got TDS on that stuff. And you guys think that that's it. And it's like, you haven't done it for yourself. You just don't like my answer to it. I subbed, bro. Thank you for that. Red Pill Podcast 1776. Appreciate that very much. Be sure to turn on post notifications too and whatnot when you sub so you get notified every time I go live. These comments disgust me. Trust me, CT7567. These comments disgust me a lot too. But these are the swine, right? In the words of Jeffrey Epstein discussing his Mossad ties, these are the goyim. But that's what it is. Like, pigs are going to do what pigs are going to do. There's plenty of swine in this chat, so it doesn't bother me that much. Just laugh at the comments. Don't let them bother you. I don't know. I really haven't been following it too much. I just wish Ghislaine Maxwell, frankly, I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff happening. One of the files that was released though with Jeffrey Epstein was literally talking about how Trump never took a massage out of the Palm Beach home. So sorry, hate to burst your bubble again. Really, you all were really counting on Trump going down for Epstein. Not gonna happen. What did Maxwell say to get special treatment? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one to unfold because Maxwell's going to be, I think, testifying soon, is it? Or at least speaking on this soon. And she's no doubt going to get extra privileges. So that'll be interesting as well. Definitely. We'll be watching that one. I'm not defending Trump's actions centered around this Epstein file release. I think it's an abomination the way this administration has handled it. And I still think it's despicable that he is protecting the elites because that's what Biden did. I voted for Trump to be different than Biden. And in a lot of ways he is. But this is something I take seriously, these Epstein files. This is a disgrace to know that so many rich and powerful people were involved with this shit. But the bottom line is this DOJ is they're not going to be investigating this shit because this DOJ is corrupt. It's corrupted by something, and I don't know what, but it's corrupted. Todd Blanche especially. And, the fact of the matter is Biden hid all this stuff from us. He protected the elites. I expect different out of Trump. Trump's running as a conservative. He's supposed to be the morally upright candidate. So for him to have tried to hide it, like Biden did hide it, is disgraceful. Now, to be fair, Trump's the only reason we are getting the files. It wasn't because of Biden we have all the access to this information. And then the liberals are so stupid, they'll say, Biden's excused because he didn't run on releasing the files. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. That's the excuse there. So Biden, your hero, the former president of the United States, is excused because even though the files were there and they existed and they were full of all this incriminating content discussing child pedophile rings, because Biden never said he would release them, that makes it okay that he didn't. That's liberal logic for you. But yeah. And that all that is to say, it ties right back into Trump's approval rating because I believe his disastrous handling of these Epstein files does play a large part into why his approval rating's dipping. On top of that, no deep state arrests, no investigations, no deep state arrests. We've gotten Don Lemon. And so they're wondering why his approval rating's tanking. That's why. I'm noticing prices go up, not down. I've explained and acknowledged tariffs and immigration. And how they play a part, but how we just need to blatantly fix that, and we do that by focusing on where our taxpayer money's going, and it's going towards all the wrong stuff, all this foreign aid, all this bullshit. The Monroe Doctrine is a great thing Trump did, but it needs to be taken seriously. Let's focus on the Western Hemisphere. Let's leave the old world behind overall, and let's just buckle down. We got to buckle down. We got to shut down immigration. We got to put Americans first. We got to regulate AI domestically. We got to improve our supply chain, our manufacturing. There's so much work that needs to be done in this country, and it just comes down to the fact that none of our current elected officials can be bothered to represent us. And so, as always, that's why I advocate on this channel, if you're politically involved and you're in the know and you pay attention to politics a lot, don't run from that. Use that. Do something with that. Try to get involved at a local level. Start there. If you're very young, go to college, not for the bullshit education they'll give you, but go to college so you can get involved in political circles. Do something, especially if you're someone that finds yourself in church every Sunday, you live a good life, you care about America. That's what this country's going to need, bottom line. And it needs to be young people. We need to put an age limit on our elected representatives. We need young, strong, preferably conservative men who love this fucking country to do something. Start at a local level, get involved in politics. We have to do it. Everyone's afraid. Better to be a fisherman than to meddle in the politics of man. That's a stern warning, but, what choice do we have now? So I advocate for that all the time. We need more good people in our politics, people that will put America and Americans first, not people who just say they will, and then all of their actions show otherwise. Yeah, Mark Twain. That's actually not a Mark Twain quote, though. I love Mark Twain. But I've actually, disappointingly, and I'm going to ruin it for you because it was ruined for me, Turbo Christ. That's a good quote, but it's not a Mark Twain quote. I was actually so bummed when I found out it wasn't because it sounds like something Mark Twain would have said. But I actually researched that, and it was basically like, no, he actually never said that, sadly. But it is true, I think, somewhat. Doesn't have to be that way, though, but the people have to take the power back. That's the whole point of this constitutional republic we live in. No, Europe needs America to slap us about. You know what? Here's another thing we should be doing with NATO. I've said this before too. We've funded NATO for 67 years too long because it's been around for 77 years and it was only ever supposed to be a concept for 10. And we have funded the defense for NATO while they focused on their society. So we should be going to people like country NATO, all the ones within NATO, and just telling them, you're going to buy this portion of our national debt up because you owe us. Well, we won't do that either. Congress loves NATO for some reason. We should leave NATO outright, but Congress loves NATO. I don't know where. Fuck Joe Biden says, to be fair, you can't handle the truth. Maybe. I don't know who you're talking to. A house divided against itself cannot stand. You are being divided on purpose for decades, says Boshi24. I'm not for unity on this channel. I don't believe in unifying with the corrupt, disgusting liberals. There's nothing to unify with them over. Nothing. Their ideology is corrupt and gross. They want the open borders. Like, a large part of the problem here is because of liberals. Not completely. It was Republicans mostly that sent our manufacturing overseas. So they're not exonerated. But liberals, they're all for abortion. We have a declining birth rate here in this country. Abortions are sky high. Women have officially killed, what is it, 1 point, I can't even remember the number. It's astronomical. Liberals are for abortion, open borders. They're for men turning into women. They're for all of the most sick shit out there. We saw what liberal unity looked like in COVID times, 2022, peak COVID 22. 6 feet apart, masks, experimental jabs, 3 of them at least. If not, you were deemed a horrendous person. Vaccine passports, which I always find funny. Liberals are outraged over the fact that we want ID for voting, but they were the ones just literally 3 years ago advocating for vaccine ID. You can't enter a building unless you're up to date on your vaccinations. That's what liberal unity is. I'm not unifying with that ever. They hate America, liberals. The current modern day Liberal Party and its voter base despises this country. They're American apologists, meaning they apologize for being born in the greatest nation on earth. They apologize for America existing. We just saw the retard Billie Eilish do this. Her house, her mansion exists on sovereign former Native American land, but she goes on TV to say that there's nobody illegal on stolen land. So, and by the way, the logic there doesn't apply either. If there's nobody illegal on stolen land, it's like, okay, what does that mean about us? So, no, there's no unity with the liberals. I don't want unity with them. I want the liberal ideology shattered and annihilated, and I want liberals who bought into that shit humiliated and ostracized. And then I want a healthy, socially conservative ideology to live on. That's what will save this country. No, conquered doesn't mean stolen. Not to mention we purchased a lot of it as well. But yeah, we settled it first. First and foremost, we settled it. And there's a difference between settling and immigrating. You immigrate to an established country. You settle unestablished lands. You settle the wilderness, which is what this country was when the settlers came here. It was a bunch of savage Indian tribes that hated each other. They were constantly at war. They were vicious to each other. And they had established territories, but they were not united. That's why we call it the United States now. We came here, we settled it, we conquered it, we took it, it's ours, and then we purchased the rest. End of story. What a sad sack of propaganda, dude. Says to himself so he can sleep well. I don't feel guilty at all. Sleep well about what? What did I ever do? I was born in this country. I'm a Native American. I'm a Native American because I was born here to parents who were born here, and my grandparents were born here, and my great-grandparents were born here. That makes me Native American. I don't feel guilty at all. At this point, I'm just a Native American, and I'm advocating that America doesn't make the mistake that the Indians made when the settlers came here. We got to protect this country. What do you think a city like Dearborn, Michigan is? That's a settlement. It's 52% Muslim and growing. They're the invaders. They're creating colonies. They're colonizing Michigan. Same with Minneapolis and the Somalis. That's why I'm so pro deportation. We should be revoking citizenship for a lot of these people, especially when they're wrapped up in fraud, and we should be sending them anywhere but here. They're colonizing this country, or they're trying to. I'm going to make sure it fails, and I think we all need to make sure it fails. But from one colonizer to them, I recognize colonizing as a white person when I see it. And that's what Somalis are trying to do, and that's what Dearborn, Michigan's turning into. It's a colony, and they're trying to colonize the cities. So no, don't get me started on that. I'm just a Native American, bro. Exactly. Doraku 1453. I don't even use the word natives though, Doraku. I'm native. I was born here. I'm like my family's like 4 generations into this country, so I'm native. But they were Indians and they did have 10,000 years to sort out the affairs of the Americas, and they were still in the Stone Age when the Spanish arrived. Yep. Exactly. 2009 lifeguard says yes on the colonization. Yoshi is a tryhard. You aren't bothering anyone. Yeah, who are you talking about? Who's Yoshi? Oh, oh yeah. No, listen. That's one of the swine. That's one of the swine I'm talking about. He's one of the pigs. He has nothing valuable to say. Just ignore him. Protect America as Americans. The world will never see another country like yours. Amen, Bosch. Boschi? Is that your name? Yeah, Boschi. Amen. That's what we got to do. We got to start putting this country first. Yeah, I made a mistake saying the Muslims are settling because you can't settle what's already settled, but they are colonizing. You can colonize what's settled. The Muslims are creating a colony. Robin Banks. They've created a colony in Dearborn. And we see that. It's very evident. They're changing street names to honor their fallen Muslim heroes. Osama Siblani Way. Look that up. That's now a street name in Dearborn. They changed it from a normal street name to that. They voted for it. The mayor is now telling regular citizens of Dearborn, some regular white Christian man who went there to complain about the street name being changed. He said, well, you're an Islamophobe, you're a xenophobe, and you don't belong in my city anymore. That's a colony. That's a Muslim colony, and it's unacceptable. And we can't allow that to happen in America. We cannot. I hope Europe wakes up before it's too late, says AWARF 1110. Yeah, I do too. I do too. But they're not going to, it doesn't seem. They're Europe lives in too much of a fantasy to understand what's happening to them. And America's partly to blame for that. We funded that fantasy via NATO. That's why I advocate for us to leave NATO. That would rip them back into reality real quick. But Congress won't do that either. Europe is gone to Muslims. I used to live there 10 years ago, says Totina Mac. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's all over X. The evidence is out there. By the way, be sure to subscribe right now to American Advocates if you're enjoying this content, and give a like on the stream because it helps perform well. It helps the stream perform well in the algorithm. Also, criticism of stupid ideas is not fascism. Man, there's a word you hear all often nowadays, right? Like these liberals out here, they love their trigger words. It's like Nazi. You're still using that word in 2026. Nazi, fascist. Those are borderline compliments nowadays. What the fuck is New York going to do? Why? What's going up? What's going on up in New York? I don't know. Europe is starting to pay for its own military. It's about time. That's because they know. That's because they know we're at our wits end with NATO. Too little, too late, says Boschi. I mean, we just need to leave NATO, and then we'll watch them fund their military proper all of a sudden. I guarantee you that. Putin will be eyeing us. Putin will be eyeing up Europe if we leave NATO. There's a red state boom. There is a red state boom, the red pill. Yep, that is true. That's also not good in the long run. It's all blue state idiots that ruin their state via their voting habits that are going to migrate to the red states to ruin those. So, but in the process, maybe some of the blue states can reset, wouldn't it be something to see a red California? It's a shame. I've been out to California a couple of times. Beautiful state. I love a good In-N-Out burger. Beautiful state, beautiful scenery, but liberal policy will just ruin it. I got a buddy who lives out there now, and he's been out there for years, and he wasn't even a Republican, my friend. He was like kind of a moderate Democrat, if you ask me, but he's seen it firsthand now. It's like there's just there's shit all over the sidewalks, homeless encampments in California. It's bad. It's real bad. Liberal policies for the loss. Gavin is another idiot, says Kimberly Harsh. Hey, Kimberly, I think you've been in this stream before. Welcome back if that's the case. Good to have you back. And yes, Gavin's a complete moron. Never Newscum. Yeah. Yeah, Kimberly, I think I recognize you. I could be wrong about that, but I thought I remembered having a Kimberly as a viewer before, so. Investigation on voting polls. We need investigations big time, and we're just not getting them. We're not getting investigations on anything that matters. They're now going to go all in on Don Lemon or other bullshit. Meanwhile, you have Todd Blanche going on the news trying to water down just how serious the Epstein files are. Other countries are taking the Epstein files so seriously. Political careers are ending in the United Kingdom and other countries over the release of the Epstein files. But here in America, what do you think the likelihood of that is? What do you think the likelihood of a political career ending here in America over the Epstein files is? And I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about anybody else. What do you think the likelihood is of an elite being arrested over the release of the Epstein files here in America? It's slim to none. And the American people, we all want to see it, and we're not going to get it because our politicians don't represent us anymore. Bottom line. Thoughts on the Epstein files? I gave my thoughts on the Epstein files last Saturday. I went over them. I went over the more prominent emails regarding Jeffrey Epstein and how he was linked to intelligence agencies, which made me feel very vindicated because I've been saying that for a long time now. And people, the pigs in the chat say I'm stupid. Jeffrey Epstein's Mossad, you're so stupid. Jeffrey Epstein's possibly CIA, you're so stupid. Jeffrey Epstein has KGB ties, possibly, you're so stupid. It's like, no, that's what it was. It was a blackmailing operation. He used barely legal girls and in some cases drastically, like blatantly underage women to compromise powerful elites to blackmail them. The conspiracy theorists were right again. Isn't that something? Hillary had him killed. I don't know who had him killed. If he was intelligence, then it probably wasn't Hillary. I know that's the running joke, but if he was intelligence, it very likely wasn't Hillary. And of course, if you want to believe our own DOJ, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, back when Dan had the stomach for his position, then of course he killed himself. KGB is completely different. Yeah, I know it is. KGB is much different than Mossad. I'm not saying they're the same. But Epstein was very likely involved with multiple different intelligence communities or agencies, not just one. I don't think he's dead. The pics don't match at all. I've heard that theory. I think that's crazy, though, to be honest with you. Go look at the Epstein temple up close and look at the paint job and tell me what's wrong with it. I've never heard anyone talk about this. All right, I'll do that. I know it looks kind of Egyptian from afar, but TDS needs a vaccine. I keep asking for your opinion on a constitutional convention. Spirit 7614. What do you mean by that? Like re-examining the Constitution? I can give you my thoughts on the Constitution, why it seems to be in crisis right now, which, by the way, has pretty much nothing to do with Trump. That'll piss off the liberals if there's any in my chat right now. The Constitution is in a crisis right now because This country was founded on Christian virtues and principles, flat out. People hate hearing that too, but at the founding of this nation, especially the 13 original states, each state had a state recognized religion. It was a denomination of Christianity. And some states actually required politicians to be Christian in order to hold office. That's the bottom line. That's the reality of America's history and our founding. The Constitution was written at the time by mostly Christians and a few deists. And deism, the definition of deism has changed since the writing of the Constitution. Those deists still ultimately recognized God, but some of them flat out said, we don't recognize God the same way that a lot of Christians do. We recognize him as a clockworker, somebody who sits back and watches things unfold. And nevertheless, that Constitution was written under the guise of people being morally upright, more ethical, subscribing to a religion that would hold them to those values. We've lost that as a country. We've lost that. Liberalism and feminism has destroyed all of that. And so when you lose that, you lose out on the Constitution and its effect that it was originally intended to have and what it was originally supposed to be doing for us. And that's why we see it exploited constantly, because now the very people who are anti-religion, pro-feminism, pro-liberalism, pro-abortion, pro-transgenderism, all of this stuff that's eating away at our society, these people now hold power, mostly in the form of the Liberal Party. But then even on the conservative side, there are some pretenders that just pretend to be Christian but really aren't. And so when the majority of people, especially in our positions of power, don't actually hold true to that faith anymore, then they exploit the Constitution, which was written in the context of that. And that's really why we're in a constitutional crisis as a whole. That's the bottom line. Lawyers speak to exploit the loopholes. Yeah, that's part of it too. I mean, that's ultimately how they wind up skirting around it. But the reason why they're doing that is because they just don't have good morals anymore. You don't need Christianity to be moral. Technically, you don't need Christianity to be moral, but you need Christianity to have good morals. Your morals come from somewhere, and it's not from inside. Morality is established by society, and so therefore society must come together to pick what set of morals it wants to adopt for its nation or for its country or for its people. And it's usually pretty wise to pick something that's established, like Christianity. Spirit of 7614, thank you. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. As far as rediscussing the Constitution, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think there are some obvious problems with the Constitution nowadays. There's some things that will wind up changing things even worse, like AI, which doesn't really have anything to do with Christianity overall. And AI is just going to be such a game changer. It's so useful, but it's also so dreadful. So, we'll have to see where that goes too. But that could be a problem. We all go to bed thinking of Trump. No, when I'm in bed, I try to think anything other than politics. Politics, I don't want to be my complete life, but it's very important to be politically active nowadays. Jesus was God walking in the flesh. Yes, he was. Jesus was a trans immigrant. Yeah, okay. Very, very nice. Wow, so smart. What a smart take. AI will flood the zone. Yeah, 2009 lifeguard. AI is going to be interesting. Very hard. It's going to be very hard to deal with that. The bottom line with AI, like I stated earlier, is just we need blatant restrictions, just upright restrictions domestically on AI. AI should only ever exist in the form of serving people, not replacing them. If it replaces them, you literally defeat the purpose of it. You used to have to be Christian to immigrate. People would be shocked at the true history of this country and just how much Christianity played a part. They don't want to believe it, but history says otherwise, and the information's all out there for you to research. Jesus was a good, honorable gangster. Jesus was an OG for sure. Used to have to be European too. Well, not exclusively European, but pre-1965 Immigration Act, almost all of our immigrants came from the European nations. Yeah, It was less. It was drastically less than 1% came from elsewhere. It was the Immigration Act of 1965 where everyone decided to get real soft. The 60s and the 70s were some of the two worst decades for America when it came to policy change and when it came to individualism, feminism, the destruction of society and morality. And yeah, Immigration Act of 1965 was huge. It was a game changer in all the wrong ways. That's when we decided for some reason, oh, we should allow the third worlders in. We should give them an opportunity at a good life. Disgusting. Empires get soft over time. That's one of those examples. Boomers are the worst generation, says Kool-Aid Jimmy. Yeah, yeah. Boomers are that generation. It's not their fault the time period they were born in, but they were born after the greatest generation, and then they were born, when everything was peaceful and easy. There wasn't really anything happening. Everything, like, it wasn't easy at first for boomers. When they were teenagers, things were still kind of sucky. But when boomers were when boomers were in their 20s and their 30s, life was so easy. And you can look back on it and you can see the market and you can see everything. Everything was simple for them. And easiness like that just makes you soft and it makes you weak. And for some reason, people who are born in such times develop self-sabotaging tendencies, and they just seem to make terrible decisions. The boomers are the generation that had it better than their parents and their children. Yep, yep. And that's by design. The boomers are selfish individualists, and they made all of their choices on what would benefit them, even doing so knowing that down the line it would be hurting us. The boomers are the generation that sacrificed their children for profit. It's terrible. It's honestly terrible. No, I didn't say the 30s were easy, Jesse James. Not the 1930s. I said boomers had it easy when they were in their 30s, which for most of them would have been in the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s. So some of them in the 90s. Kimberly, hey, you know what? I appreciate the self-awareness. Kimberly speaking as a boomer. We had the best. I agree with the music. Music sucks nowadays. You guys did have the best music. Music stopped being good in the 2000s. We had the best music, the best sex, yeah, the best parties. We had it all. Yeah, yeah. Free love. That really hurts society though, I think, We did make some terrible decisions. Yeah. And it's collective, It's collective. There's no reason. It's not like I'd ever say, it's the boomers' fault, and specifically, it's Kimberly's fault that the economy's terrible and that America sucks and that millennials are fucked over and Gen Z can't find work. Gen Z will never own a home. Gen Z are doomers. No. Collectively, though, generations have to accept responsibility. We collectively give credit to the greatest generation of all time for saving the world, pretty much, when not all of them did. But that's how that works. So it's unfortunately, it's how it works. Individually, there are cool boomers out there. Every generation has great people, but collectively, we talk about the boomer generation and we talk about it with disdain. It is what it is. I agree with the music part, especially, though. Good music for sure. Live and learn, man. You can blame some of it on me if you want. Well, what were your voting habits back then? Turbo Christ. If you want to see how society changed drastically, look at people from the 30s and 40s and 50s and compare their life and accomplishments to people born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. Yep. America shouldn't have entered World War II. Sometimes I almost agree with that. When I'm in an edgelord type mood, sometimes I agree with that. But I don't know. I've been voting Republican since I was 18. Well, then we'll exonerate you, Kimberly. You're exonerated officially. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. I just was coming on here to just rant today. I'll have something more linear and planned out probably for tomorrow. Kind of a slow news day, but like I said, the Trump approval rating thing was really eating away at me, And the tone deaf approach and the generational divide, it's real. It's happening right now. We are witnessing it with the under 40 voters versus the over 40 voters. And it's going to create chaos in the short and midterm. This country is going to go through some hard times as old people. We're in the fourth turning right now. We're in the fourth turning, and the old generation is desperately trying to hold on to their values, their way of life, their wealth, their prosperity, the way they do things, and they really do. The older generations really do despise us. But the more they squeeze, it's like squeezing sand. The more they squeeze, the more sand just falls right out of their grasp. That's what's happening. It's inevitable that they will be replaced, and that young people will someday very soon take power. And when they do, I'm hoping for the best. I believe this country can be saved, but it's going to take young, strong, conservative men to do it. And this age gap is very obvious, and Trump is kind of almost the best example of that in some cases. Talking about the housing prices, how he wants them to go up, talking about how we're in a golden age when we're very clearly not, and this is coming from someone who voted for Trump. So, and I'm still happy with some of the stuff he's done, but overall, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made, and Trump's very likely not going to be the guy that gets that done. Our taxpayer dollars go towards fraud and corruption and foreign governments. Meanwhile, the rest of us are living in some of the hardest economic times we've ever seen. And it's just sad. It's just sad. And I hope to live to see the day where it changes. America can be great again, and it needs to be great again. Americans must be put first. And when young people get the chance, I think we can do it. I think we can save this country. Glory to America. God bless the USA. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Thanks to my super chats today. Appreciate that. Be sure to like the stream. Subscribe to American Advocates if you haven't already. I pretty much go live every day, and make sure notifications are turned on so you're notified every time I make a community post a video, or go live. God bless you. Have a great evening.